Rep. Ayanna Pressley and Senator Ed Markey, Democrats of Massachusetts, are introducing a bill to fully end qualified immunity, a legal doctrine that protects police and law enforcement officials from civil liability in cases where they are accused of violating someone's constitutional rights. Pressley and former Representative Justin Amash, first introduced a bipartisan version of the bill last summer, as an amendment to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, a package of sweeping police reforms developed in response to nationwide protests against police brutality. Pressley and Amash's amendment did not make it into the version of the JPA that was passed by the House in June, which instead included a provision to reform qualified immunity to allow individuals who file civil suits against local and federal law enforcement officers the possibility to recover damages, something the current qualified immunity doctrine widely protects against. The doctrine of qualified immunity for too long has shielded law enforcement from accountability and denied recourse for the countless families robbed of their loved ones, Pressley said, noting that ending systemic racism in policing depends in part on ending qualified immunity. There can be no justice without healing and accountability, and there can be no true accountability with qualified immunity. Markey echoed that sentiment, citing the cases of Daniel Prude in Rochester, New York, Elijah McClain in Aurora, Colorado, and countless others that inspired a renewed push to end the doctrine. Colorado became the first state to end qualified immunity in June, picking up efforts to do so in the wake of McClain's death. The doctrine would have theoretically protected police officers who chose to administer an inappropriate dose of ketamine, a fast-acting sedative, to McClain. It's time we end the outdated and judge-made doctrine of qualified immunity and start delivering accountability for the officers who abuse their positions of trust and responsibility in our communities, Markey said. There will not be true racial justice until we end qualified immunity. The bill, the full text of which was shared exclusively with The Intercept, is substantially similar to last year's amendment. It would apply to future civil litigation, in addition to cases that are pending when it's passed. The Pressley-Markey bill comes as Congress prepares to vote a second time on the Justice and Policing Act, which includes a provision that would limit but not end qualified immunity. It would also ban the use of chokeholds and no-knock warrants by federal officers, limit the transfer of military equipment to state and local law enforcement, require state and local law enforcement agencies to report data on use of force, and establish a national registry of officers who engage in misconduct.